Recording is in progress.
Welcome everyone to the Unity Health Network Tuesday meeting. This is May the 3rd, 2022. We meet in this space every week going forth, at least throughout 2022 into 2023 at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Prophet Anyanwu Cox. Prophet because I was called by God to be so. But I ask you not to freak out about that. Many of you may also be called. We all should be hearing from our Creator how we perceive he or she to be. And no, I do not read minds. I can't tell you what you were doing last night. So just kind of take a deep breath and relax. And so we are the Unity Health Network. I'm the node leader, and I'm joined by our administrators, Lloyd Hefferty and Lisa Ann Sutphin, and in association with Awu Ashunye Runnels and other content experts that we'll be bringing forth in the weeks to come. And we have Susan Yago in the waiting room, okay? And so the Global Health, the Unity Health Network, is a part of the Global Health and Health Strategy subgroup of the Global Unity Network. And it's as managed by the CSF Development Group. The focus for this particular node, we call it, is healthcare learning delivered through a virtual collaborative education and training platform. We're dedicated to the optimal health and wellness in mind, body, and spirit of all humanity and all divine creation. And we always began one with the talking drums, which you just heard. It's a cultural process, cultural art, if you would, cultural, spiritual system from Africa, where the African talking drums can actually, at least in historic days, traditional days, that actually mimic language. And we also follow that with a quote from an ancestor. In this case, today is Dr. Maya Angelou, who invites us from the space she sits in these days in the heavenly realms to just take a day to heal from the lies you've been told. And what about the ones you've told yourself? So I am Prophet Anyanwu Cox. I have a master's degree in instructional technology, and I am still licensed as a registered nurse. I have over 40 years of experience specializing in mental health, complementary, alternative, and integrated therapies, addiction, trauma, death, dying, life transition support. I'm an ordained minister, holistic practitioner with over 30 years of service, engagement, advocacy, education, and life skills coaching with populations with diverse ages, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds, gender, diversity in communities primarily across the United States, but I've also had opportunities in India, the UK, Africa, Jamaica, and Canada. I'm an institute elder with the local African American Council of Elders, as well as the National Black Council of Elders. I'm on the steering committee. I was appointed as one of 15 African Americans to the 400 Years of African American History Commission, which was put in place pursuant to the Public Law 115-102. And I'm the chair of the Education and Outreach Subcommittee for the International Civil Society Working Group for the United Nations Permanent Forum on People of African Descent that was established last August 2nd, 2021. I support the Association of Black Psychologists National Programs Team and the Salbona Healing Circles Planning Committee. I'm trained in all kinds of healing circles, Salbona, Ubuntu, Emotional Emancipation Healing Circles, which were created by the Association of Black Psychologists and the Community Healing Network. And each of these circles offer culturally specific intergenerational healing circles for persons of African descent, specifically dealing with trauma and also crisis in day-to-day life. I'm the co-founder of Safe Healthy Spaces, which offers sacred healing spaces specifically designed for diverse populations and their allies. And lastly, I'm not going to go through this whole list, but I am trained and have a lot of years, let's just say, in holistic and complementary therapies, which include sound medicine out of the Monroe Institute. Some of their technologies were used by the military. They're used by a lot of medical doctors and educators for pain management, hospice care, surgery. You can use it during surgery, radiation, chemo, detox, a lot of things. Trained by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross herself. If you know exactly who she is, then I have an idea how old you are, because she was around a long time ago. She designed the model, came up with the concept of the 5 stages of death and dying, and I actually had an opportunity to go and train with her Reiki master, advanced Reiki, healing touch, so on and so forth, and aromatherapy and on, breath work, stress management, anger management for basically preschool all the way up to adult. So let's go forth, because I want to be able to have enough time for our speakers. We're not going to do this video today, but I just wanted you to see the book. Anyone who's interested in healthcare and are doing any kind of work around health as it relates to people of African descent anywhere on the planet, I recommend this book, Medical Apartheid. It covers the dark history of medical experimentation on Black Americans, but I understand from some of these meetings that I've been in, it actually has happened across the world. It gives you an insight into why so many people of African descent shy away from some healthcare. This did not end with Tuskegee. Some of the experimentation goes up until today. So that's something to take a look at if you're interested. So now we're going to take a few minutes just to get a little background on some of the reasons why we're here as a network. And many of you have already seen this particular video, but it's very short. It's only about 2 to 3 minutes.
The United Nations is an organization with goals of peace and sustainable development around the world. Their mission is huge, but we're breaking it down in 2 minutes. 17 sustainable development goals. Let's get to them, cause the more you know. Look, in some corners of the world today, people are living on $1 a day. Hey, that's not how it ought to be. So goal 1, eliminate poverty, and goal 2, root out hunger across the globe. There's 800 million people hungry, if you want to know. Number 3 is health and well-being, and getting people the health care that they need in. Learning in school are the harder goal 4. Education opens up minds and doors. Goal number 5 is empower girls and women so they can have the same rights that men are given. Number 6, people need water that's clean. Poor sanitation can spread disease. Carbon-free energy is goal number 7, and how to achieve it is the question that's pressing. But if we put our minds together and work hard, we can find a solution, I'm guessing. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. Now imagine that you work all day for no pay. Economic growth and decent work is goal 8. Goal number 9 is to foster innovation in infrastructure and industrialization. Goal number 10, inequality reduction. 11 is sustainable city construction. 12, well, that's sustainable consumption, so what we use matches up with production. Goal 13 calls for urgent action to combat climate change, cause we know it's happening. 14, protect life under seas. 15, protect life on land. Goal 16 is for peace and justice all over the planet. They're in high demand. And the final goal, number 17, is the critical factor, the heart of the machine. It's the strength in the way we achieve these goals of sustainable development around the globe. Yo, 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it. 17 sustainable development goals to improve life all around the globe. Protecting human health and the environment. Whatever bed we make, we gon' have to lie in it.
So how many know that whatever bed we make, we're going to have to lie in it? So that is the 17 sustainable goals. Here's a chart that covers them in case you're not familiar with this. And this is a part of the work that's being done all over the world. And one of the reasons why we're here today is to do our part to be able to address whatever goals that we can. And of course, today we're talking about number 3, which is good health and well-being. Each time this pops up, then this pops up. So that's just how I'll be clicking that off all day. But anyway, so good health, quality education, even gender. We have sort of a nice balance. Women and girls is one of the big things, and we have about 3 women today. And then we have, of course, Dr. Jonathan. And so all of these, we have several that are being in partnership as well. So just in case you're not aware of those, this gives you sort of an FYI to go forth and maybe do a little more research on it. So we are so happy today to have 4 expert panelists who have studied and put in time and talent and treasure to be able to come here today to share with you what their life work is. And we're going to cover today traditional, complementary, alternative, and integrative health. This is our panel because we want optimal health in mind, body, and spirit. We understand that health is the wealth of the body. And each of our panelists will have 15 minutes. It's a little different setup today than usual, to share their background, a few high points that they want to cover in that 15 minutes. And what we will do, because I know that they're all excellent and they're all very talented and they have a lot to share, we're going to have each one come back at some point because we will be meeting now once a week. And so we'll have an opportunity to have a full, 40 minutes, 45, whatever for each one to share and for us to have, question and answer discussion about them. We have a lot going on, as you know, these last 3 years with the pandemic, but even prior to that, we had, many of us have dealt with different situations of health and well-being and making choices, being able to have intelligent conversations or at least informed conversations with our medical professionals around what options we might have other than some of the conventional medicine or something that will support what we're doing in terms of our healthcare. And so we're going to move forward and we're going to begin with Dr. Jonathan M. Fields. He is here in the USA. And just a little, very, very little. He has like a 5-page, I think, bio, but I just summarized it. He can cover more. He's a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. He's definitely a health advocate, martial arts instructor, and an author. I know he's also a clinician and has much more in his bio. So you can take it away, Dr. Fields.
Thank you so much for that lovely intro. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me here. I'm honored to be part of this amazing panel with all these wonderful panelists. The video is amazing. Please send me a link or a copy of that so we can share and promote that to some of our people as well. As you mentioned, I have a doctorate in acupuncture and Eastern medicine. I have a master's as well in it, a bachelor's in health sciences. I own 2 integrative medicine clinics in South Florida in the United States. And we treat everything from chronic autoimmune diseases to, pain, musculoskeletal stuff, digestive issues, a lot of women's health. And our clients range all the way from super wealthy to local janitors. So I work with all types of conditions. We have a couple other practitioners in the clinic as well. And one of the things I want to talk about is how effective these traditional and these complementary medicines actually are at treating these types of conditions. A lot of times where patients have been told there is nothing you can do, or they've already tried everything and seen dozens of doctors and specialists, and have either been turned down or they've been put on all these types of medications that are giving them extreme side effects. And the doctors are often not taking them seriously, especially when it comes to women, and especially people of color. It's bad enough in the medical system as it is, But when you're talking about, you're adding these two issues into it, I think there's not all doctors, I think all doctors start off wanting to do good, but I think there is a great amount of disrespect and lack of patient information, where the doctors are not really educating patients on what the process is, what they're doing, what they're giving them. And a lot of times the doctors aren't even sure. They're not sure of contraindications or interactions between medications, and they're just piling up more and more on these patients, and they're not taking into regard the feedback from the patients. When the patients are coming back and telling them that they're having side effects, sometimes known side effects, and the doctors are telling them, no, 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 it's not possible. Yet you can look it up, and there's an FDA warning for that side effect for the medication. So it's something I think that we all deal with, and I'm sure all the other panelists have a lot of experience dealing with this kind of issue on a regular basis. And I wanted to share a little bit from my experience on a functional medicine side, and from an herbalist side, from an Eastern herbal tradition, which might be a little different than even some of the Ayurvedic, which is also Eastern, or some of the African herbal traditions. So I'm very excited to be able to learn here and share with some of these other panelists. In addition to the clinic, yes, I've been in martial arts my whole life. I think Qigong and Tai Chi and some of those types of martial arts have been tremendous for my personal health and mental health. I've lectured at universities. I've published case studies and reports. I've lectured and done presentations for Fortune 500 companies, and I work and volunteer at different trauma centers around the area. I'm actually an alumni of the Parkland High School that had the incident a few years ago over there. So I've been very heavily involved in the community here, donating my time to the city first responders and people who were, I guess, affected by that incident as well. So it's really a pleasure to be here and to share. I could go on and on about the different things that I do. I'm also an artist. I actually got introduced to Dr. Andrew through USA Breaking, which is a national breakdancing organization that I'm on the development director. I'm on the national board of directors for. But we're here today to talk about health, preventative health and wellness. And I think maybe I'll give a small introduction to how the herbalism works from a Chinese or Eastern medicine standpoint. And one of the things that we do that's very different from Western medicine is we kind of simplify it. It is, and number one, I think there's a common misconception that herbalism and acupuncture and holistic healing, whether it be energy healing or any of these other things, is not scientific. And I beg to differ. There's actually quite a ton of research on it. And we have literally been following the scientific method for the last few thousand years. And and this has been recorded, right? If you look back at whether it be ancient Egypt or China, which were the first two large civilizations that were actually documenting their medicinal processes, there's books from ancient China and there's hieroglyphics from ancient Egypt going back thousands of years documenting these types of medicines. And we have case studies. My knowledge is specifically more on the Chinese and the Eastern side of it, but we have books written from a couple thousand where they were describing herbs, the different actions. So this has been tested over and over again on a population of billions of people over a couple thousand years. So they started off the hypothesis, but it was tested again and again and again, and they've repeated the case studies. So even though we may not know the exact mechanism of action for every ingredient of every herb or every formula, that doesn't matter. The scientific method has proved that this is successful and it is working, right? And we do have clinical case studies. There's plenty of modern research. A lot of it is positive. I know I want to say propaganda or the pushback from the Western system is typically to cast a shadow of doubt on anything that didn't come out of the pharmaceutical index, let's just put it that way. But if you look at most of the pharmaceuticals, most of them come back and are derived from extracts of plant medicine and of herbs. So that's proof enough that these compounds are working. Will they always be strong enough for every situation? No. However, a lot of times the medications don't work either, and the plant medicine does work. So it's really amazing. And any doctor can attest to this. there is no one size fits all. And that is one of the biggest failings of the, I think, the conventional medicine stream right now is you have this diagnosis, you get this drug. If it doesn't work, we have this other drug. If that doesn't work, go home and die, right? Or we start cutting and pulling things apart where sometimes it is not necessary. Now, once again, if I get in a terrible accident or I have an emergency, please, I don't want you pouring herbs on me. I would like to go get treatment just like somebody else. But we need to be realistic and recognize the limitations, the advantages, and the pros and the cons of all types of medicine. And that is, there's been a war against traditional medicines because I think we would all imagine is because they're not profitable enough for the bigger corporations. However, any of these practitioners with me, I'm sure will tell you, we are saving lives on the ground, literally. People come in sometimes with life-threatening issues and they have been failed. And that is one of the ways I got into this medicine. I had been studying Eastern medicine and martial arts and teaching martial arts for probably about 18, 19 years now. I wasn't doing it full-time professionally. About 11, 12 years ago, I had a serious health crisis. I was in my early 30s at the time. I'm in my early mid 40s now. And at one point at that time, I must have been about 31. I was having hot flashes, chills, fatigue, depression. I had systemic joint pain, every single joint in my entire body, neck and back pain so bad. I couldn't sit in a chair. I couldn't work. I was disabled for about a year. And I spent all my time as a young man going from doctor to doctor. I must have seen a dozen different specialists, only to hear from most of them that, oh, your labs are perfect, your tests are fine, it's all in your head. Here's some pain pills, here's some muscle relaxers, go home, leave us alone. Now, I was smart enough and lucky enough, I think, to not fall into that trap. I had seen many friends and people go down that path before, and I knew it wasn't going to end well for me. So I kept searching, and I worked with my acupuncturist, my Qigong master, and later on, a friend of mine, and one of the guys I share one of my clinic spaces with now, who is a formula events and formulas, and he basically, I walked in one day to the shop and just to see what was going on, and the first thing he said to me is, "You look like crap," in other words. And I told him the whole story, and he told me, "Oh, you're fine, you're healthy, I'm gonna take care of you, you'll be fine." Now, I did not believe him because I had already seen, I don't know, a dozen doctors and specialists, and they had all told me, they can't help me basically. And so for a guy who sells vitamins to tell me, "I'm gonna get you better," it sounded like pretty far-fetched. However, he was right. He put me on a regimen of a few things. I had a drastic change within a few weeks. The hot flashes, the chills, the fatigue, and the depression was gone like that within a couple of weeks. He put me in touch with a chiropractor, and I was working with my acupuncturist. They recommended some small dietary changes. And at the time, I had actually gone vegan, and that was working against me. So there isn't a one size fits all against. For some people, that may be life-saving, and for other people, that may be problematic. Even with the supplements I was taking, that maybe was not enough for me at the time. I was eventually able to make a full recovery. And after that, I basically knew I had no choice because one, I could not go back to living that same kind of lifestyle that made me that way. And part of it was, I think, overworking and overtraining. At the time, I was working a ridiculous amount of hours on the computer. I was in marketing and design and social media and web design, all this kind of stuff. So I spent a lot of time on the computer, and I spent a lot of time training martial arts, probably 3-4 hours a day on top of that, training intensely. And I think the diet I was on was not providing enough nutrients. I was not resting enough. I was not sleeping enough. I was drinking too much green tea, I think, because I thought that was great for me. It turns out it was dehydrating me. So there's all sorts of factors that, while they might not affect somebody else, sometimes it takes somebody like myself or one of these other panelists to kind of review your whole lifestyle, which doctors will not take the time to do with patients. And even when they do, half the time they're not trained for that, and which is fine. The problem I have with the system is that they are not referring out accordingly. If the doctor cannot fix the issue, and the specialist they have referred to cannot fix the issue, why are they not referring to a dietitian? Why are they not referring to a nutritionist? Why are they not referring to an acupuncturist, right? Why do they give up once they rule out, surgery and whatever drugs they could give them? Now, the FDA and the American College of Physicians actually came out a few years ago And in regards to, correct, it is a monopoly. We got a comment here from Joshua. Yes, I mean, that is definitely part of the issue. Part of it, I think, is lack of education, and yes, the monopoly, the propaganda, I guess, from the conventional side, trying to discredit everything that we do. And that's been going on for hundreds of years. Yes, correct. The industrial medical system. Correct, Lloyd. Right. There is not a lot of money when they're paying a practitioner such as us, whatever our fee is, and some herbal medicine or some nutrients that might cost a couple $100 compared to them milking somebody's insurance for thousands of dollars a month for infusions or medications, or $150,000 for surgery that may have been completely unnecessary. So this is one of the issues. But like I was mentioning, the American College of Physicians and FDA both came out a few years ago and made a statement that they wanted physicians to recommend alternative methods for pain management before opioids, such as acupuncture, such as massage, such as chiropractic, and I believe there was a couple other ones on the list. However, have doctors gotten the memo? Absolutely not. Doctors are not, most doctors are still not referring to these kinds of things. One, because they don't believe in them. Two, they don't know how they work. And three, they may not have somebody to refer to. But that is, I believe, all part of the system by design, right? And then the other issues, there's a lot of times they're still prescribing drugs that they shouldn't even be prescribing. The American Heart Association and the FDA a few years ago warned to doctors to no longer prescribe aspirin or baby aspirin to people who have not have a cardiovascular incident. Every doctor is still prescribing. There's very few that have gotten that memo. And what they had found from doing 3 large clinical studies of over 5,000 people each for 5 years and a systemic meta-analysis was that it was actually not preventing any cardiovascular incidents, and it was more likely to cause gastric bleeding in the patient than it was to help with any prevention. So that's pretty serious. And then we look at how much of that it may be not gastric bleeding, but how many of those people are getting acid reflux? How many of those people are getting misdiagnosed with IBS or other issues? And maybe it's just they're overdoing it with the Tylenol or the ibuprofen or anything. Not that these drugs don't have their time and a place. It's just, well, and here's the other thing that gets me. So America, right, in the United States, where most of us, I believe, are based out of, we are 5% of the world's population. And from the last statistic I've seen, we consume about 60% of the world's drugs, which is absolutely mind-boggling. I treat pediatrics as well. I have kids coming in all the time. They're putting them on drugs younger and younger, with the ADD drugs and all sorts of other drugs. And it's just, we're getting sicker and sicker as a nation. And now it's kind of a shame because we have these types of avenues, these types of conferences. It's a big world, right? We have the internet, we can get information, but a lot of times people are leaving their entire life into the hands of a doctor who may or may not actually care at all about their health. And I'm not saying doctors don't, because I know a lot of very good doctors, but we know that when you're in a for-profit system, there is going to be corruption, and there is going to be people who overstep and people who kind of will look the other way or overprescribe or whatever the case may be, for their own benefit rather than for the benefit of the patient. And most of us took a Hippocratic oath, and it should always be the patient first. Doesn't matter what's convenient for your clinic. Doesn't matter what medication or formula or whatever is going to make more profit for you. It should always, always, always be the patient first. Same as I would like my mother to be treated, or my children, or my wife. It's not right that people are not being treated that way. And with that being said, I think I've reached my 15 minutes, and I will graciously allow some of these other panelists to speak. And I'm looking forward to taking some questions and connecting with everybody later. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. That was great. So our next, and we will have questions at the end. We're just having our panelists give a like 15-minute presentation, and then we'll have questions from our attendees for any of the panelists. So, yeah. All righty. So our next panelist is First Lady Imelda Talbert, also in the USA. We have two panelists that are in the USA. She's also First Lady for Victorious Life Church and Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. And I apologize, First Lady, I do not remember Bishop's title, and so I hope he's not watching, but you can share that as the First Lady, because I know he's got a really important job, a bunch of them. But anyway, she's here in her own right as a certified nutritionist consultant, certified clinical master herbalist, entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur with a line of health products as well. And that has not only, she'll tell her story, saved her life, but that of a number of family members. She's a 23-year breast cancer survivor, philanthropist, working with young women, not just young women, but women in domestic violence, young ladies as well. But she'll tell some of that and then talk about her training and her, I know she's in a doctoral program, which I'm going to throw this out real quick in terms of her introduction, because I know in terms of her doctoral program, is some of the things that have stepped in and kind of hindered, but she's keep pressing forward, is the Katrina flood, where she rescued her mom, who was very sick and also in a flood, and then her sister who passed, where she took both of the children and raised with her children, and then not to mention what she did as the First Lady of a major denomination where her husband serves, is the hard, they call him the hardest working man in PAW, which means that she works twice as hard. Sorry if you heard that, Bishop, but take it away, First Lady. Just let someone in, hold on. You have to unmute, yes.
There we go. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good, good. Good morning, everybody. I certainly thank God for the opportunity to be on this panel this morning with all these distinguished guests. I want to thank you, Dr. Cox, for allowing me to participate in this. I will certainly try to wrap up a few things in 15 minutes, and I look forward to the opportunity to join these distinguished panelists again at some point. I certainly enjoyed Dr. Jonathan Fields. He gave out so much information, and I just said, you know what, ditto, 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 because so much of that I could relate to Dr. Fields, because trying, to educate people with the holistic approach to things and supplements and diet changes. And I get chiropractic adjustments, and I believe in all of those things. And I think it just takes a plethora of things to do to keep us at optimal, vibrant health. And I certainly believe in the chiropractic adjustments. I get them. And then I try diet and exercise and things of those things to kind of help me do better in my approach to wellness as well. My husband, Dr. Cox, is actually the first assistant presiding bishop of the International Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. He just recently stepped down to overseer of Victorious Life Church, of which he's pastored for 23 years, following in the footsteps of his father, who pastored 23 years. My husband pastored 33 years, I'm sorry. And so he's busy and off to a meeting, so he's not listening. But I just want to thank God for this opportunity. And so much of what Dr. Fields said is just so true. And it really—
You're muted again. You're on mute. Yeah, there you have it.
So much of what he said, all of what he said is true. And I think it just boils down to the money. And
now your sound, I'm sorry, First Lady, your sound is low for some reason, if you can turn it up.
Let's see. I hope I don't disconnect you all.
No, you're good there. Now you got it now. Go ahead.
Okay. But I certainly think a lot of it does have to do with the money. I have been in, I guess, the holistic wellness industry for over 33 years. As she mentions, I'm a 23 breast cancer survivor. And back then, I didn't know as much about holistic approaches as I know today. And I did get the chemo and the radiation through the breast cancer. But I tell you, having a good diet and good supplements and antioxidants and immune builders and those things really made a difference, even how, you know, my body stood up to the cancer treatments. Never lost my hair. I never got a cold, got sick or anything. Matter of fact, my husband and I, in the midst of being treated for breast cancer, we opened a charter school which serviced over 500 students of multicultural students, and I was being treated for breast cancer. But as Dr. Cox stated, I just have had a lot of things to happen to me in life. And I really believe that's why it's so important that we have a good diet. We have chiropractic adjustments. We have, you know, the different things that help supplements to keep our body strong physically, because even when we're going through emotional trauma and mental things and financial things, if your body is built up physically, you can withstand those things a lot better. I was actually being treated for breast cancer when my husband and I lost our 19-year-old son in a car accident. And so that was just, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I was already going through breast cancer treatment. And then I get this call that my son had been killed in a car accident. So I guess about maybe 16, 18 months later, one of my sisters got breast cancer. And as the Lord would have it, she lost the battle to breast cancer and left some minor children. So my sister and I divided the children up, and we raised those children as our own. And just about the time I got her son in 10th grade was when my mother lost everything in Hurricane Katrina. So here I am going through breast cancer, just lost a son, raising my nephew. Now my mom comes here from Hurricane Katrina. But you know, Hurricane Katrina was horrific, but it turned out to be a blessing for my mother because she never wanted to leave Louisiana. And so she was forced out. So it gave me the opportunity again to put my life on hold and just commit my time to helping my mother. At that particular time, my mother was obese. She was wearing a 22Y. She had diabetes, was on insulin twice a day, 20 units in the morning, 20 in the evening. She had high cholesterol and was on statin drugs every evening, not to mention being emotionally distraught from losing everything except what she had in a suitcase when she came here. And you know what? I could have gotten the help, and I just had to make that decision. When we're going through things like that, or our family is going through things, we can either be the help or we can get the help. And I decided to be the help. So I put school on hold. I put some personal things that I had going on hold. And I thought, you know, be great to accomplish this right now, but I'm not going to take any of this with me anyway. So let me put this time where I feel it was most important, which was to help my mother. But what I did for my mother, I changed her diet completely. And in Louisiana and New Orleans, there's a lot of seafood and gumbos and a lot of gravies made with flour and oils, and there's a lot of fried food, seafood and fish and po' boys, and sometimes they're not eating a lot of vegetables. And so I changed my mother's diet first of all, and then I put her on good organic whole food supplements, non-GMO everything, and started taking my mother. She and I were going to the same cancer doctor to be treated. My mother never lost her hair. She never got sick, never got a cold, and we both took cancer in the wintertime. I was kind of like just maintenance care, where my mother was actually going through treatments at the time. But changing her diet, getting rid of some of that stress, putting her on good organic supplements. My mother was 78 years old at the time. And within a few years, my mother had gotten off all the medicine, including the insulin. She has not been on any kind of diabetic medication for over 12 years now. And it started, and that's the thing, like Dr. Fields was saying, they don't want to look for alternatives. I remember when my mother, I started working with her and her A1C started getting better. And so she started getting lightheaded and kind of getting weak. And so I told the doctor, I said, I think you need to, you know, check her insulin and maybe let's look at cutting her off of the evening shot because it's getting too low. But long story short, I had to kind of guide them along in that process because they were trying to leave her where she is. And let's be clear, diabetics die a piece at a time. And first it's a toe, and then it's a foot, and then it's, and I think they do these surgeries a piece at a time because whether it's a toe or a leg, they can bill for the same thing, surgical, you know, expenses. But my mother had good circulation, and eventually she was off all the medication, hasn't been on any of it over 12 years. As far as her cholesterol, those numbers are great. She's been off of all the statin drugs. And insulin and statin drugs are two things that a lot of times they'll say, well, once you're on that, you're probably not going to never get off. You're probably going to die on those drugs. But I beg to differ because I really believe in what I teach a lot about is maybe I could share that at some point in detail, is cellular nutrition. Because I believe if we can get the cells healthy, the body can heal itself. I believe everything that we need for healing, God put in these bodies. The liver regenerates itself, the blood, we get new blood, we get new cells. So if we start doing some things differently, we can turn this health around. I remember sitting at a table one time with a medical doctor, and he was asking me about herbal alternatives, and he wanted me to name everything in it and what it did and all the this, that, and the other. And I looked at him, I said, look, when I go to the doctor or somebody go to the doctor, they don't sit there and tell us everything that's in these medicines. I said, and you don't know what's all in them either. I said, y'all prescribe them, give us a few little side effects. And then when we go to the pharmacy and get the printout, it's 2 pages of side effects. You don't discuss that in your office. I said, I don't need to know every little detail about every vitamin, every herb. All I know is what it's for and that it works. And we have it proven testimonials all over the world. So I believe with cellular nutrition, if we can feed the cells and then rebalance and repair cell damage and protect the cells. And actually, you know, we all have healing is within us, you know, no drug, no surgery, none of that are healing, but the healing lies within us, and it's our immune system. And so we can keep that strong. I believe that the body can heal itself. My mother was 78 years old. She is 95. She still is not on any of those medicines. She broke her hip in October of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, had surgery, went to rehab for 18 days, came out of rehab with home physical therapy. They had her on some pain meds and some other meds, and she had like a slight heart attack or stroke, and ended up back in the hospital for 11 days. And when she went back in the hospital, they was giving her these meds and different things, and help them, Dr. Fields. Like you said, sometimes they don't understand about nutrition, but they were giving her medication on a liquid diet. And all that was doing was disrupting her digestive system. It tore a hole in her digestive tract. And so then I get calls that she needing blood. We can't keep giving her blood. And I said, so what are you telling me here? Is my mother dying? Well, it don't look good. We think we're going to have to put her in hospice. I said, well, on the hospice floor of the hospital, that's 24 to 48 hours. No, sir. I don't care if it's pandemic. I don't care if you're not letting people in. You need to let me in because I'm going to take my mother home. I went in, I assessed my mother, and she really looked like she was on her way out. But I brought her home for home health care, hospice. Hospice came in with the comfort kit, with the morphine and all of that. And so I said, well, my mother don't have organs shutting down. She's not in pain. Why would I want to give her morphine? Well, it helps anxiety. I say anxiety. I say you have Ativan in this box. That will help anxiety too. So why would you give a person? So I knew where that was going. So I let them do their presentation, accepted their services. I put that kit, and I'm not saying this is for other people to try. This is what, and you just have to be an advocate. You have to read, you have to look. But I went back to foundational stuff, nutrition, all the stuff that she usually gets on a daily basis that she didn't get the 11 days she was in the hospital, which was a good diet, nutritional whole food supplements. And in 3 days, I had them come and take the catheter off. I got my mother up. She was at the table. I fed her liquid protein shakes. I grind up vitamins and omega-3 oils. And in 2 months, my mother was out of hospice home care. That was 18 months ago. She is still living and vibrant and well and in her right mind. But if I had followed that procedure, they had in their records that the prognosis was my mother would be gone in 2 to 4 days. And if I'd probably started the morphine, she probably would have been. But I just believe we have to be an advocate for ourselves and for our seniors and for our families. And I just believe that cellular health, when we can feed those cells the things that they need, we can rebalance and repair cell damage and get that immune system up. And that's what I have been doing over the years. I'm still cancer-free and medicine-free over 23 years. My mother is still diabetic, high cholesterol, cancer, and all of those free and medicine free. So I am an advocate for all of these things that help with just really returning the body to the state, because the Lord has already decreed that he would that we prosper and be in health, even as our soul prosper. And if these bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, that means he made them with caution, paying attention to every detail. And so everything that we need is in these bodies. We just have to put the right things in them. We have to do the right things to keep things circulating and moving and eliminating and things like that. And I don't know, my 15 minutes, I don't want to go over. I'm like Dr. Fields. We'll be back at one point. But I just wanted to share those testimonials. I work with kids and battered women's shelters, things like that, trying to educate them as well. I am a independent distributor with Neo-Life, been with them for over 30 years. And if anybody have any questions, I'll take them at the end. Thank you, Dr. Cox.
Thank you, First Lady. And let me just say before I bring our next person on, this one funny, First Lady calls me doctor. Her husband, Bishop, began to call me doctor a long time ago. I thought it was a prophecy, so I signed up for a PhD and started paying my tuition. And then I found he called everybody doctor. So thank you, though, because I know you're doing it sincerely.
Yes, I am.
And so our next presenter is Dr. Lena Moketsi. She'll pronounce it correctly. And I'm getting in touch with so many people in other parts of the world that I will be taking some languages, because I need to at least be bilingual. But I know she is in South Africa. She's very, very skilled and talented. She's a traditional African medical practitioner and Ayurvedic medical doctor, entrepreneur, and a corporate consultant. I had a wonderful first conversation with her, and she enlightened me on so many things. This is such a rich, gifted group here today. I feel really grateful to have you all here. Okay, Dr. Lena, is Lena correct?
Yes, it is. Good evening and good morning, because there's evening in South Africa. Unfortunately, I have load shedding and I'm on 57%. So I would love to be, let me switch on my camera just for 2 minutes for people to see me. And then I'll switch back off.
Yeah, you're good. I know that when you turn on the camera, it burns up a lot. So you can turn it off. We have your beautiful picture up here. So I know it's difficult.
Okay. Okay, thank you, everyone, for having me in your space and allowing me space. As Prof has already said, I'm a traditional African medical practitioner, as well as an Ayurvedic medical doctor. So I brought the two modalities together because I was initiated as a young child at the age of 12 to be a Sangoma, which is a traditional healer in South Africa. And when I had to practice, I found it very difficult to practice Hence, I went to study Ayurveda so that I can bring the two together because they're not very, very different. So I practice holistic medicine where I look at a person holistically. And I love what the first speaker said, that it's not a one size fits all. And a lot of people have been asking me in South Africa, why aren't your products in stores? And I say, because most of them are custom made for individuals. Because even though you may have diabetes, it's not going to be the same with the next person. So I practice holistic medicine where I do custom made products. And I looked at the fundamentals of healing from both African perspective and Asian, and I found that they were very similar. And I decided to start doing research into African medicine. And I found myself gravitating towards understanding non-communicable diseases, as well as fertility and wound management. I did specialize in those for a good period of 6 years, where I was bringing healing to people who were now suffering from diabetes and high blood pressure, of which they never did before. So the interest was sparked by the number of African Black people who were now getting diabetes and high blood pressure, of which they didn't before, and also the number of women who were struggling to conceive, and men as well, who were struggling to impregnate their women. That led me to looking for answers in traditional African herbs on how to actually help regulate a woman's cycle to a point where she starts to ovulate and she becomes pregnant and can carry full term, and how to increase male sperm count to a point where they can actually impregnate their women. And when it came to non-communicable diseases, I would find that people were now being scheduled for operation to amputate because of the foot ulcers. So I then decided to do more research in terms of how do I deal with the wound? How do I heal the wound? Because as we know, most diabetic people, the wound takes long to heal. So I started looking at wound management and also the treatment of the ulcer and how to stop people from having the smell that they had in these wounds. So I looked at food, I looked at medicine, and I started preparing what we call a medical grocery. So the medical grocery is basically food and herbs and medicated herbs that people were now consuming in order to help them heal. And then this led to me developing teas for people with foot ulcers and people who just have like open wounds, and also women with C-sections. I developed teas and I developed herbal capsules, if you can say that. And then for the wounds, I developed a soap and a cream for that. And everything has either 100% vegetable oil in the formulation of it, or it's just a combination of culinary herbs and medicinal herbs that make me produce these things. So I am not on social media, unfortunately for me, because it's often people that I must heal that come to me. But I do have people who sell my products using either white labeling or using my own brand, which is called Vutomi. So you may wonder, how do I find people, or how do people find me? It's always by word of mouth. As many people know, in Africa, we are blessed in the sense that the first point of contact for people when they ill is a traditional healer. And I'm blessed to be a traditional healer and also know Ayurveda. So many of my clients or patients come to me because they are looking for a traditional healer. And that's how they tell other people about me. So word of mouth plays a big role in my space, because ancestors want me to heal people that I'm supposed to be healing, but then it overflows with other people coming from other places. And some just call me just to say, can you please help me? I don't want to consult, but this is what's happening with me. And therefore, I will put together, whether it's a tea, whether it's a tincture, whether it's soap, like I say, to help them heal. So I do make my own products. And I do partner with other people who are either doing homeopathy or ethnomedicine. So during the pandemic, I was able to develop a immune booster tea and a tonic and a syrup for kids. And I also made tinctures. The tincture was to capacitate the lungs because people were struggling to breathe. So this was just an improvement from the asthma tincture that I had done, that I had developed years before COVID. So I looked at how to improve that by helping people to breathe and also stop the persistent cough that people had. So that continues till today. So I do have a combo. Our people like to steam. Our people love drinking herbal teas. So that put me at a different space altogether from what I was passionate about and still passionate about, where is non-communicable diseases. So now there is a lot of focus on researching more about treatment for people with COVID. And again, during the lockdown, people were prone to heart attacks during COVID. And I then developed a heart tincture and a tonic to help unblock arteries if there were any, and actually help with circulation and keep the heart healthy. So currently I'm working with the youth and women farmers, looking at integrated health solutions where we promote medicinal groceries for people who are either living with COVID or affected by COVID and saying, I don't want to see myself in hospital. Then we tell them which foods to buy and which foods to avoid. So the health system in Gauteng is overburdened. And it's for this reason that we are looking at food to become medicine for people. And often the people in Gauteng, some of them are unemployed because they were retrenched, or they come from families where there's very little income. So we also help them to start growing their own food in their backyards so that they are eating healthy and they are able to maintain the diet by having things that grow in their yard and becomes part of the prescription groceries. So I am working more and more in the agriculture space, positioning medicinal herbs and culinary herbs with medicinal properties so that I can start transferring the knowledge to young people and women who are interested. Because as we know, agriculture on the continent is growing exponentially. And if it's linked to diversification, where we can bring products made from these crops, it means more households will have an income and more households will move away from poverty. So yeah, that's me. I think I was featured in 2018 in Africa Forbes and World of Forbes. looking at alternative ways of growing food crops. And because land was scarce, I decided to move to rooftops, where I started growing crops on high-rise buildings. So I continue to do that and bring the youth along with me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And so you started as a young girl to study herbs and healing?
Yes, I was 12 years old when I was initiated, and it was tough. And I moved from one country to another, running away. But I then had to come home and face what I was being called for. And because it was so difficult, I then decided, you know what? I need to go and study a different um, health side so that I can be able to incorporate the two worlds. And studying Ayurveda actually came in very, very handy because it allowed me to now look at the different herbs that we have here at home and how to process them and repackage them in such a way that it speaks to the modern day person. Because in South Africa, where I'm from, when you go, they call it a muti market. It's a herbal market. You buy the herbs raw. They hardly ever processed. So I brought a spin on it where it is beautifully packaged, but it's still the same herbs that people are looking for. So, and I think that's what's making a lot of young people come through and want to consult and want to try some of the products or buy them for other people, especially the wound management stuff, because that, like, I've never seen anything like that in the world, where you can help a person's skin regrow without having to do some major operation of cutting a piece of the skin from somewhere in the body. Like, that is, it blows my mind each time when I have people with burnt wounds being referred to me, and they start doing the treatment and the amazing results that this brings. Also with women who've had kids through C-section, the healing period is quite amazing. So we have amazing herbs that are yet to be studied, but some have been studied. It's just a matter of us adding more discoveries to these that have been documented. And I'm also very fortunate to come from a home of healers where both my mom and my grandfather contributed to the writing of books in the space of African traditional medicinal herbs. So there are books in Zulu and in Tsonga that I have, and now bringing books that I've acquired from Sri Lanka, where I studied, and some I just buy from different parts of the world, and I bring these together. So it's a beautiful thing when you start doing research with just what grows up in the hills and in the valleys, and you see the benefits of it to humanity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so our next presenter, the fourth, certainly not the least, is Bishop. Very impressed with Bishop and Varaha Kokunyo. And I'm sorry, Bishop, I didn't get the last part. I tried to practice, but she is here. She's the founder of CPAS. She's a pastor. My understanding, she has a bishop over 5 churches. She's a visionary, vice president of the Global UnityNet, for the DRC, we called it, but it's the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Dr. Ferrara, I do have a PowerPoint that I prepared last night. I will go to it, but if you don't need it, you can let me know. No one used PowerPoint because you only have a few minutes, but I can show some of it if that's okay.
Oui. Ok, bonjour à tout le monde.
Good morning, everybody.
C'est Fura Kakunyo dans la République démocratique du Congo.
It's Fura Kakunyo in Democratic Republic of Congo.
Je suis contente pour présenter les thèmes sur la guérison par la foi et le rôle du croyant.
I'm very glad to present the theme on the healing through prayer and
Je suis pasteur et fondatrice de la communauté qu'on appelle Communauté des Églises pentecôtistes en Afrique et Salut pour tous.
I am the pastor of the church, which is called the Community of Pentecostal Churches in Africa and Salvation for All.
Aussi, je suis coordinatrice et fondatrice de l'association qu'on appelle AFEVIPED ou Action des femmes vulnérables unies pour la paix et le développement durable.
I'm also a coordinator and founder of the AHIABGA-TV.
Ici, je vais parler concernant ma communauté. Je vais un peu parler parce que l'État nous presse. La CEPAST, que veut dire CEPAST? C'est la communauté des églises pentecôtistes en Afrique et Salut pour tous.
I'm going to talk a bit about my community, and my community, CEPAST, is a community of Pentecostal churches in Africa and Salvation for All.
Sa vision de la CEPAST, c'est la CEPAST a comme vision, elle vise le salut de tout homme holistique et intégral de l'être humain sur tous les plans spirituel, physique et mental, les ramenant à son Seigneur Jésus-Christ.
CEPAST aims at salvation of every holistic and integral human being on all levels, spiritual, physical, and mental, bringing him back to his Lord Jesus Christ for the inheritance of Holy City, the New Jerusalem.
CEPAST a comme objectif principal de proclamer l'évangile à toutes les nations, les baptisant au nom de Jésus-Christ pour devenir ses disciples.
The main objective of CEPAST is to proclaim the gospel to all nations, baptizing them in the name of Jesus Christ to become his disciples.
Et cela prend comme fondement dans Actes chapitre 1er, verset 8.
This can be read in Acts chapter 1 up to 8, and in Matthew
Et
28,
Matthieu 28, chapitre 18, verset Matthieu chapitre 28, verset 18 jusqu'à 20.
and Matthew chapter 28 from the 18 verse up to 20.
Si nous allons directement à la doctrine,
If you go directly to the doctrine,
la CEPAST est une église de la foi purement chrétienne qui prend ses fondements dans l'église universelle de Jésus-Christ et où Jésus-Christ est le centre.
the community of a Pentecostal church in Africa and Salvation for All is a church of purely Christian faith, which takes its foundations in the universal church of which Jesus Christ is the sole founder.
Et elle croit à un seul Dieu créateur qui se manifeste aussi en Jésus-Christ et en Saint-Esprit qui est sa force.
She believes in one creator, God, who manifests himself in man in three personalities, which constitute his wholeness.
La CEPAST croit à la Bible comme la parole de Dieu,
CEPAST believes to the Bible as the word of God,
à l'église qui est le corps du Christ,
to the church, which is the body of Christ,
au péché qui est la transgression de la loi de Dieu,
in the sin, which is a transgression of the God's law,
au salut qui vient de Dieu par son Fils unique Jésus-Christ,
in salvation, which comes in the name of Jesus Christ,
à la Sainte Seine,
in sin,
au baptême par immersion,
in baptism, in immersion,
au culte des chrétiens
or in the belief of Christians,
et au jugement de Dieu.
and the God's judgment.
Si je parle un peu de ma foi,
If I talk a bit about my faith,
comment j'ai réussi à être pasteur?
how I happened to become a pastor,
Ici, c'est la déclaration de ma foi.
this is the declaration of my faith.
la déclaration de ma foi.
the declaration of my faith.
Moi, comme Furaha Kakunyu,
I'm Furaha Kakunyo.
je reconnais avoir reçu Jésus-Christ comme mon Seigneur et Sauveur.
I acknowledge having received Jesus Christ
Il m'a
as a
trans-
Lord and Savior.
il m'a transformé et m'a fait son disciple.
He transformed me and made me his disciple.
Je crois à Dieu créateur de la terre et des cieux et de tous les êtres vivants. Lui qui m'a créé, m'a choisi, m'a appelé et à mon tour, j'ai dit oui à son appel.
I believe to God who called me and who made me what I am, and I believe to the scriptures.
Ma foi est de suivre pleinement Jésus-Christ.
My faith is to follow Jesus Christ.
Si je suis parvenu à être pasteur,
If I happen to become a pastor,
je suis une femme mariée, mais qui vit maintenant seule.
I was a married wife, but I'm living now alone.
Pendant 15 ans de mon mariage, je n'ai pas eu d'enfant.
During 15 years of my marriage, I didn't have a child.
Mon mari était parti, avait vendu la maison, était parti.
My husband sold the house and went away.
Et lorsqu'il est parti dans la détresse, Dieu m'avait appelé.
When he went to distress, God called me.
Et par la grâce, il m'a doté de ses dons.
By his grace, he gave me his gifts.
Et comme ça, j'ai pris pour les gens, malgré toute maladie, j'ai pris pour les gens, et par la grâce de Dieu, les gens arrivent à être guéris.
And I pray for people, any kind of disease, and the people happen to get recovery.
Il m'a doté aussi les dons de l'évangélisation
He gave also the gift of evangelization
et beaucoup de dons.
and many other gifts.
Si nous allons directement à l'introduction,
If we go directly to the introduction,
nous pouvons voir Genèse chapitre 1, verset 1 jusqu'à 3.
we can go into Genesis chapter 1 from the first verse up to the third,
Et 26 jusqu'à 31.
and from the 26th up to 31.
Dieu a créé la terre et tout ce qu'il contient.
First of all, God created the earth and all that is there.
Finalement, par son grand amour,
Finally, by his big love,
il a créé l'homme et la femme à son image pour gérer tout ce qu'il y a sous la terre.
he created a man and a woman in image to rule everything on earth.
Malgré l'amour de Dieu envers l'homme et la femme,
Also, the love of God towards man and
ils ont
woman,
eux-mêmes créé le mal qui est la source des problèmes surgis sous la terre.
they themselves created problems, which is the source of what we are living today.
Et si nous lisons la Bible, nous allons voir ça dans Genèse chapitre 3, verset 2 jusqu'à 13.
If you read the Bible, you can find that in Genesis chapter 3, from the second verse up to the 13.
Avec les problèmes qu'ils ont créés, Dieu les a maudits.
With the problem that they have created, now God cursed them.
Et voilà les fondements qui traumatisent l'être humain jusqu'à maintenant.
This is what is the base of the problem that a person has these days.
Mais avec l'amour infini de Dieu,
With the endless love of God,
il a continué à créer des voies pour guérir ses plaies.
he continued to create ways in order to cure the people.
Et la simple formule est de croire en Dieu.
And the first way, which is simple, is just to believe in God,
Avoir la foi en Dieu à travers Jésus-Christ qui est notre sauveur.
to have faith in God through Jesus Christ, who is our Savior.
Si nous parlons de la guérison par la foi,
If we talk of healing by faith,
dans Hébreux chapitre 11, verset 1,
in Hebrews 11, the first verse,
il nous dit que la foi, c'est la ferme assurance des choses qu'on espère.
faith is the assurance of things hoped for,
Dans la démonstration de celles qu'on ne voit pas,
the proof of things not seen.
lorsque quelqu'un a l'assurance qu'il va avoir la guérison,
When you seek healing,
c'est juste qu'il soit guéri.
you must necessarily be healed.
Par exemple, dans Matthieu chapitre 9, 20, verset 20 jusqu'à 22,
For example, in Matthew chapter 9, from the 20,
une femme
and
qui était malade
a woman who was suffering
avait dit 12 ans de souffrance. Elle avait dit, si je touche seulement l'habit de Jésus-Christ, je serai guéri.
she was suffering for 12 years, and she said if she could touch only the clothes of Jesus Christ, she could be healed.
Et par sa foi, elle avait touché l'habit de Jésus et était guérie.
By faith, she knew she should receive recovery.
Pour avoir une guérison par la prière et la foi, cela concerne deux personnes.
To have recovery from faith and prayer, this concerns especially two people,
Les serviteurs de Dieu et les malades.
the servant of God and the sick.
Celui qui croit en Jésus doit faire tout ce que Jésus faisait sur la terre.
The one who believes in Jesus Christ is able to do everything that Jesus
Jésus nous a donné
Dites, by
la
my-
puissance de faire tout ce qu'il faisait sur la terre.
Jesus gave us the power to do everything that he was doing when he
Et
was
si nous
living here.
regardons directement là où nous parlons de la femme, nous allons voir la femme, là où nous parlons les témoignages de maladie,
When we are talking about faith, we are going to see the woman
c'est le témoignage de maladie.
concerning the testimony of disease.
C'est ce qui s'était passé à mon église.
This is what took place in my church.
Nous allons directement au témoignage.
We go through to the testimony.
Cet enfant que nous voyons ici, il avait souffert pendant plus de 5 ans.
That child we can see there was suffering for more than 15 years.
La photo montre là où il était parti à l'hôpital, mais ça n'avait pas tenu.
The picture shows that he went to the hospital, but he didn't receive the
Il est-
recovery there.
Il est parti chez les herboristes, ça n'avait pas tenu.
He went to see even people who were using herbs, but he didn't receive healing.
Ils avaient circulé partout, ça n'avait pas tenu.
They went almost everywhere, but no result.
Mais lorsqu'il était venu chez moi, à
When
notre église
that
de la
child
Sébaste,
came to me in my church, the past,
nous avons posé la main sur lui.
we put hands on that child.
Malheureusement, la vidéo n'a pas tenu. J'allais montrer comment on priait pour lui, comment cette chose était sortie dans la bouche.
Unfortunately, the video doesn't show it very well.
Nous avons continué à prier. Dans une semaine, la viande a commencé à pourrir.
We continued praying. In 1 week, the lump of meat which was in the flesh which was in the mouth
Et, vo-
begins to pour it.
et voilà, il a déjà sa viande dans la main, déjà guérie.
And you can see now the lump on his hand already recovered.
Si je parle de témoignages de guérison par la foi, je ne peux pas les terminer.
If I begin talking about the testimony through prayer, I can't finish all.
Même les sidérés guérissent quand nous prions pour eux.
Even people who are suffering from HIV, they get their recovery from prayer.
Les diabétiques prennent aussi la guérison quand nous prions pour eux.
Even people who are suffering from diabetes are also receiving their healing.
Lorsque une personne nous arrive avec la foi, en sachant que je viens devant l'homme de Dieu, et nous prions aussi avec la foi, directement il reçoit la guérison.
If a person comes with faith before a person like me who is praying, automatically that person is going to receive his healing.
Beaucoup de personnes, on les amène sur le lit, mais ils sortent déjà à marcher eux-mêmes.
So many people, they bring them on beds, but they go back walking by themselves.
Alors nous autres, comme pasteurs, nous sommes convaincus qu'avec la prière, tout est possible.
As pastors, we are convinced that with prayer, everything is possible.
Nous connaissons qu'on a mis les médecins et d'autres personnes, mais avec la prière, tout est possible.
We know that doctors are there ready to do this. They can also cure persons, but we know that with prayer, all kinds of disease can be cured.
Dieu nous a dit que toute maladie qui sera difficile à l'hôpital et partout, par la prière, tout marche.
Jesus told us that every kind of disease which maybe cannot receive the recovery at the hospital, they can be convinced
Alors,
and find the solution here with prayer.
avec la prière de foi, tout est possible.
With faith prayer, everything is possible.
Et si chez nous, nous avons prié pour beaucoup de personnes, elles sont déjà en bonne santé.
And here we have prayed for many people and they are healthy.
Quel est le rôle du croyant maintenant pour la prière?
What is the role of the believer for the prayer?
Nous pouvons voir dans Corinthiens chapitre 9, verset 11 jusqu'à 14.
We can see that in Corinthians chapter 9 from 11 up to 14.
Lorsque le serviteur de Dieu prie pour quelqu'un, lorsqu'il reçoit la guérison, il doit louer, adorer et donner l'offrande pour la grâce de Dieu.
When the servant of God works for someone and he finds healing, he has the obligation to thank God through thanksgivings.
C'est ça le rôle d'un croyant.
This is the role of the believer.
Nous, comme pasteurs, nous ne pouvons rien faire nous-mêmes. Il faut notre foi et la foi du malade ou du croyant.
As pastor, we can't do anything ourselves. It needs the faith of the believer and the faith of the pastor.
Et lui aussi, à son tour, lorsqu'il attend la parole de Dieu et voit ces miracles, à lui aussi devient aussi serviteur comme nous. Pour aller chercher d'autres personnes, l'amener à Dieu.
When now this person receives his healing, he can go now and look for us people and bring them to Jesus Christ.
Mais quel problème que nous avons ici chez nous?
What are the problems that we can
Lorsqu'on a
encounter?
prié pour une personne, il connaît directement que le serviteur a tout.
When we pray for somebody, that person knows that the servant of God has everything.
Il y a d'autres maladies qui demandent d'aller à l'hôpital, mais vu qu'ils n'ont rien, ils arrivent pour voir comment nous pouvons les servir. Il y a les gens, lorsque nous posons la main, Dieu nous dit de l'envoyer à l'hôpital.
Some people, even they know that their disease must go to the hospital. They don't accept it to go to the hospital. They come only to us so that we can pray for them.
Mais lorsque nous prions, il y a le moment que Dieu nous demande, nous dit d'amener cette personne à l'hôpital.
Sometimes while praying, God can tell us that go with this person to the hospital.
Parce que Dieu a beaucoup de voies pour guérir ces gens.
Because God has so many ways to cure people.
Mais moi, comme pasteur, je connais qu'avec la prière, tout est possible.
I, as a pastor, I know that with prayer, everything is possible.
Et nous avons d'autres problèmes. Les gens cherchent à recevoir toutes choses à nous.
And we have another problem, is that people want to get everything from us.
Et pourtant, il y a des limites.
And in this way, there are some limits.
Mais nous connaissons que Dieu, qui ne nous laisse pas, il va faire tout.
We know that God, who can't abandon us, is going to do everything.
Merci et que Dieu vous bénisse.
Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much, so much. Thank you to
Merci beaucoup aussi.
Merci aussi. Nous sommes contents de cette réunion. Vraiment, c'est très beau de parler de ce qu'on fait de la foi. Ça, c'est un bon sujet.
We are glad with this meeting. It's good to be talking every time like that. It's a good topic.
Merci.
Thanks.
thank you as well. Thank you to all of our panelists today. It was excellent, and I like the diversity. I've been a holistic practitioner for an awful long time, and actually I've seen healing in all the different areas that you've talked about. And so it is true. I've heard each of you say that it happens. We are individuals, and so there are different things that work for different people. And Bishop, I know that even in terms of the Christian scriptures, one time Jesus used spit and dirt, and another time he had somebody go wash, and one time he just sent his word. So it is demonstrated that there are many different ways. And if you're called to the work of healing, I know you already, everybody knows that. So we're going to open it up. We have about 20 minutes for questions and discussion for our distinguished panelists. And just excellent, excellent. We have a hand with Madame Juliette Miabo.
Nous aurons 20 minutes de discussion, de questions.
And please introduce your name and your country when you introduce yourself, and any contact information if you choose for our audience. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Juliette Miabo. I'm based and born in South Africa. I do my work in various townships. I do a lot of work in Soweto. My contacts, I've put them on the chat, if I may. But my email address is soweto.csicancer@gmail.com. Yes, and I really appreciate the opportunity here. I am also part of Global UnityNet, and I'm also part of the UnityNet Africa and the Diaspora under the South African chapter. I also work with AHIABGA-TV in areas of content. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for this meeting. I quickly raised my hand because, as you are aware, that we are facing load shedding in South Africa. So it just became my turn at 6 o'clock to lose power in my area. So my battery is flat. So I just wanted to make my comment before my phone dies. And I really appreciate this platform. Thank you, Prophet Tanyawo, and your distinguished speakers. Totally impressive content. I just want to, I have some of my comments are also most like questions. The first one, I'm very grateful to the first doctor that spoke around the issue of, and I just want to say, what would you suggest should be the approach? Because he did highlight the general disrespect of women in the health sector. We see that a lot in our country, and that is one of the reasons why issues of gender-based violence, issues of rape, issues of women's health tend to be not treated properly because of that disrespect. So what would be his suggestion in terms of the approach that we can take as an organization to try and change that? Because we are not health practitioners, we are an NGO, we work and represent communities, but we almost accept and take this as a loss because the problem is so big, but we'd like some recommendations in terms of how we can change the culture of disrespect of girl children, women, especially because we are the ones who use the health system the most. And then to the First Lady, thank you so much. I want to just ask that how do we, and it was interesting that we just got a presentation now that is more Christian focused. How do we, because I'm also of a Christian faith, but I believe that I'm also an Africanist. How do we balance the two? You know, because as a person of African descent, you have to look at who you are and where you come from, yet spiritually and in terms of your faith is of a foreign origin, foreign as in it may come from another, whether it's Jewish or Hebrew or Arabic, depending whether you are Muslim or Christian. How do we actually balance, how do we suggest we balance the two without feeling like you have to compromise the one in order to recognize or nurture the other, which is spiritualism versus faith or religion? OC, I just said OC Bani, I'm so glad to have someone from South Africa who actually raises the issues, our doctor, our traditional healer, the issues that I always raise that affect South Africans, issues of poverty, issues of landlessness. I'm also based in Gauteng, OC, or the presenter. OC means CC in Sesotho, so it's a form of respect. So I want to thank you for taking the platform, and I think you can also maybe touch on that issue. But I'm using now my phone to light my woods because my candle is not strong enough. But the question I wanted to ask was, in Gauteng, as you indicated, that the health system is totally overloaded. It is overloaded because Gauteng has had to receive more people. How do we deal more people than anyone else, I think, on the continent? How do we, what approach can we take? Because we have a situation with Nyaupe. You would know what Nyaupe is. Nyaupe is the cheap drugs that now young people are taking, and those affect communities' lives. People are dying, young people, children are dying because of that drug. So what can we do from your perspective to deal with the issue of Nyaupe, particularly for the for the users, because on my side, I work with a lot of legal issues of who are affected by users. But what can we do to intervene to help the users of Nyaupi? Because yeah, they start early. And to Madam Forai, who just, it sounded so much like a sermon I was in on Sunday, but I really appreciate the angle of healing from a Christian perspective. What I wanted to highlight, maybe it's more of a comment, that it is important that as much as there's faith and there's healing and there's miracles that happen in church, it is important, maybe it's a question that what do they do to make sure that they refer people to medical specialists, even if it's traditional doctors or African doctors or whatever specialists, to confirm that healing has taken place, or that people don't neglect whatever medication, natural medication, or whatever medication they've been prescribed to after a miracle has happened in the church system. Yeah, and those are my points and my questions I needed to raise before my power goes off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Excuse
so
me,
much,
Prophet
Andrew.
Cox.
Yes, we have a hand. We have a hand by Prince Andrew. So we recognize your hand.
Thank you so much. This is Andrew Williams Jr. Just for the interest of time today, I'm afraid that all the 5 questions that Juliet answered may take extensive time beyond that we have today. I will make available a separate time. We can have an interview with each of these guests, but for time purposes today, additional speakers would just be so kind, if they can, as to put their question in the chat, just the question, then we'll be able to deal with more of that. But we do have time today as necessary to address as many issues as we choose to. So the ball is back to you, Prophet Cox.
Okay, and then I'll turn it over shortly, but let me say this, because each of the presenters were really great, and I have actually, Juliet, I've had experienced all of them. And so what I do know about the Christian prayer piece of it is that, one, you don't have to be in church, and we have churches, I know in the United States, on every corner, that really Jesus sent his word, that scripture that he was asked to heal someone, and some of the folks who know it better than I do, but I do know that he was going to go to intervene. The person who was sick didn't know that he was coming. So it really wasn't the person's faith, because they didn't know if he was coming, and he didn't go. He said, was a centurion, the captain said, no, you just send your word, and his word did it. So I think that even as Christians, if I talk from a Christian standpoint, it's work for us to do, to start doing just what we say, where we are, where we're sitting in the kitchen, cooking, in the bathroom, in the living room, wherever. Send up prayers. Maybe it's about getting a list out of who the people are who need it. And that's a way to even support the pastors and the people in the church, because healing does not have a box to it. It doesn't have it has no time or space. And so our intent, and then also the believing part becomes important, because if we're questioning, as First Lady said, there's a lot of questioning around the natural holistic. But when the doctors give the medicine, no one is saying, well, did you confirm that that's helping? Are you confirming that there are no side effects? Nobody does that. So part of it's just education. That's why we're here today. I'm not going to do all the talking, because we have people here who are so well trained in doing that. But I just invite everyone, whatever your faith, Jewish, Islamic, Baha'i, whatever, let's start praying for people. Sometimes we forget that people are sick. Of where I'm at in my community, we have a lot of people doing a lot of stuff, and so they're praying for themselves and their family, but there are other people to do. So who wants to go first? Dr. Fields, First Lady, Dr. Lanai, who we? Oh, I see it.
I'd ask if we could have the guest. I'd ask if we could have the guest that has a translator to speak first, please. I'm not sure what the time is, but that's what I recommend.
Okay, that's true. Okay, where are we at with? I'm looking for him. Bishop. Bishop, can you address the question that was just raised?
And she may not have gotten the question. I'm not sure.
They may have a challenge. Are you there, Bishop Ferrara? Are you there? We're on faith healing, through prayer. Of course, the NIH has done research already on prayer, and they found it would be effective, and that people who were having heart surgery and heart issues improved even when they didn't know they were being prayed for. They actually improved it, but I don't see they're not coming on. So who else might want to take that question? We have 3 other. Dr. Fields, would you?
I'll take the question that was relayed to me as far as how do we deal with the disrespect of women. And that's a tough one because everything we have here going in the US, which is horrific, it sounds like over there it's 10 times worse. So I applaud your bravery, Julia, and all the good work that you're doing. The best advice I can give off the bat is to get educated. Even if you are not a healthcare practitioner, I would advise to have your patients or have the patients or the women that you work with before they go to see their healthcare practitioners, educate themselves as much as possible about their condition from a not only the conventional standpoint of medicine, but the more you know, the harder it is, I guess, for them to pull the wool over your eyes. So know what the common treatments are, know what they're going to recommend almost before you go recommend. Also, the other thing is anytime you get a diagnosis or from a doctor or anytime you get a prescription from a doctor, ask questions. Even if they're disrespectful, even if they're rude, even if they don't want to answer your questions, ask the questions anyway, because you're kind of setting up that expectation of patient-doctor communication. And that is one of the things they actually teach you. And doctors are required to reduce the amount of medical errors in the system. We're actually required to be educating the patients on these kinds of things. So, and if they don't want to answer the questions, or if they don't have time, or if they're rude and disrespectful, you know, one, you can voice your opinion, and I would say let them know straight, you know, in a professional manner, because obviously you don't want them to chalk it up to, oh, women are being hormonal and they're being crazy. You just tell them, listen, doctor, I don't think you're being respectful of my situation or my time as well. At the end of the day, and I know access to care is much more limited where you're at than where we're at, but the doctor works for you. So you can, at least here, it's maybe easier for us to fire the doctor and go find another doctor, but you can always tell the doctor, I will take your advice into consideration. I will do some research and I'll see where I go from that. So anytime you prescribe, whether it's an operation, a medication or anything, research that, go back, get a second and third opinion. If you don't have access to other practitioners to get second and third opinions, go on the internet. Google is a wonderful resource. Sure, you may get some conflicting information, but the more you know personally, the less you have to take the doctor's word as gospel, because often it is not, and often they are wrong. And in the United States, medical errors are one of the leading causes of death, and that's debated on the exact numbers of that, but we know there are a lot of errors in the system. Doctors are only human. They make mistakes a lot. A lot of doctors have been practicing for a long time. Science changes rapidly. They're not always up to date on the latest information. Things change, medicines are recalled. So it's the best thing you can do is be informed as a patient. Go in there with a list of questions that you have for the doctor. If you're not satisfied with the answer, look for other healthcare practitioners. Maybe your NGO could set them up with other nurses or like part of the Unity network or something like that, where people can actually information. I hope that helps. And honestly, I think this might need to be a topic of further discussion of how women can get recognized and not be disrespected. Maybe we need to bring that up as a whole separate panel and get some like minds on that to see, make a resource for people in the future. But thank you once again for your great work out there. God bless everyone, and I'll let the next question go on.
And yes, we can have a separate panel on gender, which is number 5. In fact, I like to have a panel on each of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but we're just starting here. Back to you, Prophet.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, Dr. Fields, that one thing is not better in the United States. My son is 35 and he had a small wound on his neck about the size of the head of a nail. Went to a doctor for the second time. He wasn't like, hadn't even decided he'd be the doctor. And when he reached for a gauze that was not wrapped, so clearly dirty, and for someone who had compromised the immune system, and I asked him not to do that, he just looked at me, shrugged his shoulders, and it proceeded. And so when I objected and fired him as the doctor, because he really wasn't even first appointed, he sent the police to my house. He's told them to come and take my son in an ambulance because he had a bed waiting for him. And so they came here and I'm just sitting there like, what? And so he sent the police, he sent 5 different separate people, kind of like there's a story in the Bible like that. He kept sending people And they're like, well, what are we doing here? But anyway, they sent him to call protective services because he was determined that he was going to get him in the hospital, even though he's the one that put the dirty gauze on. His neck erupted and to wound up having 3 big open wounds on his neck that had to be healed. And the only way I got it healed after 1.5 years of trying to adhere to what the doctors were saying, since they had me in an open protective services case, I tried to follow, didn't work. So I had a vision, and in the vision, I was told what to do, did that, and that's what healed it. So again, in this country, it's no better. Doctors think that they should be able to do what they want to do. It took a lot to get him off my case and to get a doctor that would work with me in a holistic way. So no, it's not. It looks like it ought to be better here. And I think people think it's better in the United States. It's not. Informed consent has really, really gotten into a poor condition in this country. Okay, I see Juliet is up again.
No, I'm not up. I'm just hoping the question about Nyawupe, the drug that's killing our country, can be answered by the South African speaker, please. Thank you.
Okay, we'll let her go. Let me say this really quick, Dr. Lynn. I think I've shared this before. In the United States, because I want to hear about the new drug in South Africa, I do. United States is 5% of the world global population, but we consume as a nation 80% of the opioids. So we may not have that drug, but know that we supersede any other nation on the planet when it comes to drugs that are inappropriate. But go ahead, Dr. Lena.
Lena, yes.
Lena.
With Nyaupe, I have been getting traditional healers asking me how to actually deal with people who are takers of Nyaupe. The thing with Nyaupe is that the person needs to be committed to healing, because it is a holistic thing that you need to do with them. When they take Nyaupe, often they become very slow, so it affects the brain, taking them to a level of a 3 to 2 year old. They often sleep while standing. So it is not a one size fits all treatment. You have to look at each client individually. You have to get commitment from the client, because there's several things that have to be done with this person to rehabilitate them and get them to a point where they become an adult again and they are fully functional. I would rather say, how do we stop those who are not already on Nyaupe from getting to Nyaupe, which is a problem, because those who are already on Nyaupe, there is rehab centers, though they do digress and they do fall back. But what we should be working on is ensuring that we don't have another generation of children who will be affected or impacted by this drug. So with those who are currently using it, it's a number of things that one has to do. Just getting them to bath is a problem. So what we normally do in the traditional space, when the person has committed, we start by steaming the person so that they do have the urge to take a bath. We know when you do a full body steam, it opens up the pores. You do shower or you take a bath after that. So you find them wanting to take a bath again. And then we have umpemiso, which I don't have a translation, like a rapé or snuff that is made from herbs, to now start opening their mind so that they become sober. So it goes in steps, it's phases of treatment, because you look at the person holistically and having to bring them back to who they were. So it's not like a 1 day or 2 weeks or 1 month treatment. It is treatment that is repetitive, number one. It is treatment that takes time, number two. And it is treatment that looks at the person, body, mind, and soul. So you need commitment from the person, you need commitment from the family, because they will have to come with that person or with that child who is affected, so that they can start taking the treatment. And as you know, most herbs are bitter, they are pungent, and you might find these kids not wanting to take them. But those who are committed, we have great recovery from them, and they stay off it because now they have been fully rehabilitated. I hope that answers your question.
Excellent.
Uh,
Excellent. Is that
yeah,
helpful?
no, yes, no, it is very helpful, and it's also the approach that we are taking on a project in terms of focusing on preventing. That's why we do all the programs that we do to keep the children away or not have psychosocial problems that will lead them to Nyaupe. But the reality out there is quite hard. And I don't even think our country or the government has a solution, but it's good to know that there are practices that are being done to help those that need the help. Thank you so much. Prevention is definitely better than cure, but we are faced with millions who are actually are sick and are sleeping in the street. They've left their homes. Nyaupe, you can Google it. Anyone can Google it. Nyaupe is one of the biggest killers in our communities, and it takes all the young people that we need. But yeah, prevention is better. Thank you. And thank you to the doctor as well.
Juliet, may I ask, is that something, a herb that's there in South Africa, or is it brought in from the outside?
No, it is not a herb. It is it's I'm calling a new drug, a drug not in a herb sense, drug as in something like cocaine or even worse. It's a drug that people take. I mean, they start off, they mix it with all sorts of other chemicals. They mix it with benzene, they mix it with petrol, they mix it with marijuana. And that's one of the reasons why I can't get involved with hemp. But yeah, they mix it with, and what they do is they inject it into their system. And literally they become so dependent on it, and to a point where as soon as a young, normally they start young, as soon as a young person starts off with Nyaupe, I mean, other people even opt to take them to other provinces. But unfortunately, that has also been brought into the country, and that's one of the things that is causing the problems between the different nationalities that have come into our country, because the Nigerians are being blamed for it. But who brought it in is besides the point. What counts is now we have a whole syndicate that is pushing it in communities, and the elderly that we are busy now struggling with are actually being abused by children who are mainly, or youngsters who are Nyaupe takers. So it's mainly your teenagers. I've just heard of a 13-year-old yesterday that was missing for 2 weeks. And so teenagers up to mainly up in like 30s. By their 30s, most of the time, families know that all they have to do is prepare for a burial. But some of these people, they run into the towns and into the cities where they live as a huge group of Nyaupe takers that they die there without even anyone knowing. They are the ones who steal anything that's metal. They steal, they break in, they steal from families. So it's a catch-22 that some families, they get so angry from the loss because of this poison that they'd rather the person be away, because they destroy and steal anything and everything. So, but
you don't know the origin. You don't know the country. You don't know the country. Like here, we had heroin. We had heroin that was being shot up, but we know that it came from, was it Afghanistan or one of those countries? You don't know where exactly it originates. Anybody?
No, with us, and I stand to be corrected, but it's one of the things that came, and it's directed because the people who are dealing with it, it's Nigerians. We have Nigerian landlord, because they have different markets. They have the market for the upper market where they push cocaine and the other drugs, and then for the lower market, the townships, the poor communities. That's where they push a drug like Nyawupe. And I'm saying this, and that is, you can even go in the media and check. And I've investigated in the cities, because wherever you have those big communities of Nyawupe sleeping in the street, around the corner, there's a flat of people the way they buy it, because they buy it from those Nigerians. So I'm not saying they, but we know, and it is known in this country.
It's not something that comes from, it comes through the people, but it doesn't come from the country, I guess it's, but that's fine. We'll go to another.
No, it doesn't come from South Africa. It's new. South Africa, we've always used ganja. For many years, ganja is marijuana. And we've never had problems like the way we've never had problems with marijuana. People have used it religiously and for healing. But the Nyawupe combined with all the other chemicals, and what happened, people take ganja and mix it with Nyawupe to make it more potent. But it's a bigger problem that our government is not even able to handle. But in communities, it is affecting everyone. And the approach that we are taking, sadly so, is to actually focus on prevention. And the Nyawupe taking people normally, ultimately, if it's a healthy and community, they ultimately leave, because people sort of harass them out, because they know that they will steal or they will break anything. So, and it's sad, because then they have to go into the space. But it's and it is when as the healer was saying earlier on, that that person has to be willing. As soon as they get into Nyawupe, for them to be willing to get off it, it's almost, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's almost impossible, because they live for it. They sell. They could even sell their bodies, they sell themselves, they sell their homes, they break their windows, they take off roofs, they sell anything that they can put their hands on in order to get it, to buy it. So it's so they lose any sense of self or self-worth or of community. So the biggest thing is prevention and making sure that we don't have another generation, because it's a big problem. And if someone can just, you can Google and see the impact and with what it's doing to our communities. I'll try and Google a few things and I'll put them on the health group.
Thank you so much. And that's why, because we're about to wrap up, but I want to agree with you on that. That's what be one reason why I'm not in favor. The hemp has so many beneficial properties, but it's like a trick of the enemy in a way, because when you combine, like I know in this country, combine heroin, cocaine, and any kind of opioids with trauma, long intergenerational trauma, poverty, and all the social determinants of health is not a good cocktail. And so if you had a healthy community that, when you mix mood altering chemicals with, I worked addiction for a good 30 years, that when you mix those things together, even a traumatic incident as a child, even if they're not in a population that's been heavily traumatized, it's already a problem. But when you have generational trauma and add things like it, it's not, I mean, it sounds good, but that's one reason why I will be opposed to it till I take my last breath. But I know it's beneficial and financially and all that, and I just think it's a terrible risk for future generations. So we're about to wrap up. I saw Bishop had a hand, and I saw Carol, is it Gownwe? You had your hand up as well. Any other hands, last words or whatever? Yes, we had a lot of information crammed in here, I realize, today. And so I see Lisa Anise looking like Stephanie, but come on, somebody, go ahead. Someone else, I saw another hand come up.
There's confusion on that. I don't know how that happened. My face on, Stephanie's face on Lisa Anise.
She's multiplying.
Anyhow.
You
want me to talk?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to say this. Sorry, I had to go outside, and I'm fortunate to be able to
introduce yourself first, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Prince Andrew. I appreciate that, my good friend. My name is Stephanie Schuler, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada. So many things, like it's like divine union, this conversation, so many of the conversations of so many people who have been have been focused in so many areas. And Prophet Cox, you've been involved in addiction and the medicine and seeing the communities and whatnot, and so many people here, you understand the risks to different societies. We've so many systemic things. And I practiced Qigong for half my life as well. The first speaker, Jonathan. So I know that I even have, and it's, Qigong is one history and one, cultural name for it, but all of the original peoples of the world have their ancient practices that we can even heal ourselves just through breath work. I heard you say, Prophet, and just through prayer, just through coming together. So, so much, Furaha, she talked about, prayer from wherever we come from, known and unknown. So I just think this talk about health, which is essentially, everything about the health and well-being of the children in my doctorate dissertation right now, the labeling and the drugs that we impose when we have the own medicine, just being outside with trees, we have names for it, Shinrun, or forest bathing, but it means like going outside, and we're not doing that with the kids. And I'm about the education, and you guys are the teachers. We are all the teachers, and we're putting it together, with the global Unity Network and the learning networks and the health networks, because we have a world youth suicide crisis, mental health crisis, youth and communal, whether you're rich or you're poor or you're blue or you're striped. It's going on. In Canada has one of the top 5 statistics in the world for youth mental suicide and youth mental health issues, as I'm sure all the places where you all come from do too. This is so vital, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this and to be, harnessing all of our best passions and wisdoms from wherever we come from, by name, by no ego. We're at least for the women as well, you talked about today, we are going to put it together for the women and for the children who are abused, who in whatever way that looks. This can't be, and let's empower through learning at least to feed ourselves, to house ourselves, to be able to be independent, and to be able to find the medicine where we are. It's everywhere. And to enrich that opportunity with the soils wherever we are, plant the trees, go outside, let the kids hang from the tree. They don't have to go for Qigong or for acupuncture or to a doctor or to a chiropractor for sure. Let them hang from the trees and roll down the hills and, play tag and play. Part of my background too, is this valid that we should be prioritizing play and sport and dance, whatever we get excited about? It's important, and we're not doing that. So here we have the medicine. I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm so grateful this week. On a personal note, I was slammed from some emotional personal things, and also from doing too much. We on these networks do so much. We do so much in so many different titles and accomplishments. And I had to go to my chiropractor, a doctor of Chinese medicine, different places for them to hold me, because we're trying to hold everybody. I needed to be held, and my back went out. I could barely stand. So, I'm out and I'm walking right now, not just sitting in front of the computer. Not that I should have to justify it, but I thank God that I'm able to walk and stand and be with you all. I'm really grateful. So thank you.
Blessings. And let's jump really quick to the bishop, because I see they unmuted and she had her hand up, and just we do have to wrap up. But do you have some final words, Bishop Ferrara? If I'm pronouncing it correctly, Bishop. Did you have a comment? A comment? She's talking, but you're muted.
Okay.
1 second, Julia, just because she's unmuted
No
a couple
problem.
times and her hand was up.
Okay. I may get cut, so do excuse me.
You want to unmute? No? Okay. Well, go ahead, Julia, I guess.
All right.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
unmuted.
yes,
Go ahead,
yes.
hold on. Go ahead. Speak,
Okay.
Bishop. Bishop, let her.
Oh, ok. C'était pour expliciter, montrer combien de fois la puissance de Dieu est plus haut que tout autre médecine qu'on fait. C'est Dieu qui fait tout et c'est Dieu compris. Tout ce que nous pouvons faire, c'est par la grâce de Dieu.
It was just to enrich that idea, which says that with God, everything is possible because God is able to do everything.
Malgré que la technologie avance,
Even if technology can go ahead,
malgré que les gens cherchent à oublier Dieu,
even if people wanted to forget God,
mais c'est à partir de la prière,
it's through prayer,
à partir de la parole des serviteurs de Dieu,
through the words of the God servant,
que tout peut changer.
everything may change.
Nous pouvons parler de la nation, les problèmes de la nation. La maladie n'est pas seulement sur le corps, même les traumatismes, la guerre, la faim, oui, on doit travailler, mais lorsqu'on prie Dieu, lui-même montre ce qu'on doit faire.
Through every situation which can happen in the world, for example, disease, even the kind of many things. But when God is there, I think that the solution will take place.
Je voulais vous montrer qu'avec le développement durable que nous faisons, sans Dieu, ça n'amènera pas à une grande solution.
I want simply to show that with the development, without God, nothing can take place.
Parce que souvent, on donne les médicaments, mais lorsqu'on donne les médicaments, quelquefois, ça tue.
Because sometimes you can give some medication to people and these people can die.
Lorsqu'il y a les moments qu'on crée beaucoup de choses et ces choses-là viennent détruire l'organisme de la personne.
Sometimes you can give some drugs to people and these drugs can destroy the body of the person.
Mais si tout le monde devrait s'orienter vers Dieu,
if everybody could go towards God,
si tout le monde devrait se mettre devant Dieu et écouter la parole de Dieu,
if everybody could come near God and listen to his words,
en tout cas, notre monde devrait changer.
our world could change.
Cherchons la paix en Jésus-Christ.
Let's look for peace in Jesus Christ.
Parce que c'est celui qui est la solution de tout.
It's him the solution to everything.
Sans Jésus-Christ, il n'y a pas de paix.
Without Jesus Christ, no
Nous pouvons
peace.
parler des herbes, parler de la technologie et autres, mais ce qui est au-dessus, c'est toujours Jésus-Christ.
We can talk of herbs, technology, but what is above everything is Jesus Christ.
Mettons d'abord au-dessus Jésus-Christ.
Let's put Jesus Christ at the top position.
Tout ce que nous pouvons faire à la recherche d'argent et autres, mais si nous mettons Jésus-Christ en avant, nous allons trouver que le monde ira positivement et il n'y aura pas beaucoup de problèmes.
Instead of everything we are looking for example, money and so on, but when we put Jesus Christ before, I think everything will go ahead.
Ce que je voudrais expliquer, c'est avec toute technologie, avec tout ce que nous sommes en train de faire, médicaments et autres, mettons Jésus-Christ sur le premier rang.
I want only to say that we can do all these things, but we should put Jesus Christ before.
Il va nous révéler de ce que nous allons faire.
He can reveal us what we can do.
C'est ce que je voulais vous dire comme pasteur. Mettons Jésus-Christ en avant et on ira bien. Merci beaucoup.
That's what I want to tell you as a pastor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And blessings to you, Bishop, on the work that you do. Thank you to everyone. Prince Andrew, I think we're about 15 minutes over. Juliet, you had a.
It won't be more than a minute. What I need to say, if I may.
Okay.
Yes. All right. I agree with the whole principle of prayer, and that's why we pray continuously. The problems that we have need more than just physical intervention; they need spiritual intervention. So I do agree with Bishop Faraya. Earlier on, I just wanted to indicate that the problem with the drug like Nyawupe, obviously they're not the only perpetrators, is that they target small children in terms of sexual violence. So they're the ones who rape the 8-year-olds, the 2-year-olds, and they also do the same to the elderly, because obviously they cannot, they're not strong enough to attack your average woman or your 20-year-old. So they attack the elderly and the children and also animals, because we've also found out that there's an element of bestiality.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Yes. The justice system is not able to help us. So, but the long and short of it is, with prayer and everything else, we'll overcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're going to wrap up. I do want to highlight one quick thing, Prince Andrew, that the bishop did say that I definitely agree with. At the very, 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 very end, she said, through Jesus Christ, she said, he will tell you. And so, yeah, when my son's wound healed because I had a vision. So I think sometimes we think of prayers that we just keep sending words up to heaven and wait for some miracle to happen, when actually in my time of doing my best healing work is I was told what to do. I even had one time when I was praying and asked God, well, why am I doing it? I give up the prayers and you're supposed to do it. No, I got inspired, intuitive, whatever you want to call it. I was given what to do, where to go, who to talk to, or whatever. And so I think, just from my point, that's my little piece for this medical thing today, this complimentary, is if you believe in whatever God, presence, whatever, not just send up prayers, wait for an answer. And see, because there's some feet that might need to move that you need to do, and you need the courage to be able to be obedient and do just that. So thank you all today.
Wait, just a moment before we leave. There's a brief 2-minute video on Sustainable Development Goal number 3, good health. So I'm going to share my screen for 2 minutes. Then if you choose, we're going to open our videos and wave everyone goodbye. But I am going to show this video. Give me just a moment.
And please share it in the chat, because you have so many good pieces I'd like to put in my PowerPoints. Can you put that in the chat when you get finished? Go ahead.
It's already there.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, I better save the chat.
Our health and well-being are influenced by the settings in which we live. By 2030, 2/3 of humanity will live in urban areas. Cities provide an excellent opportunity for local governments to protect and promote health at many levels. 23% of deaths are caused by environmental factors. In fact, more than 90% of the world population is exposed to air quality levels that do not meet the recommendations of the World Health Organization. Some 235 million people currently suffer from asthma. It is the most common non-communicable disease among children, and urbanization is associated with an increase in asthma. 39% of adults are overweight. Obesity is one of the biggest health problems worldwide, and living in urban areas contributes to sedentary lifestyles. Health is not only about medical and clinical services such as hospitals, it is about including health directives in all policies. Cities can be designed to provide well-being and care. Thus, many local governments are already taking actions to bring about health benefits by raising awareness in communities for prevention and to promote healthy lifestyles, improving services including basic health services, waste management, hygiene in food chains, and water and sanitation, putting people at the center of urban and transport planning, responding to the needs of all citizens, promoting connectivity in diverse neighborhoods, and improving the quality and safety of public spaces to favor mental health, physical activity, and social cohesion, improving road safety and managing traffic to reduce injuries and casualties, protecting common goods such as soil, water, air, and the natural environment in an integrated way across sectors. The Sustainable Development Agenda, including SDG3, is about ensuring healthy living, fostering well-being for all people at all ages, and promoting indicators to monitor progress. This can only be achieved through local action.
Nice, nice, nice. So that's in the chat if anyone wants to use that. I know I do. To add to PowerPoints and presentations, just to help bring the rest of the world on board with the fact that we have some goals that we should be trying to reach, not just in our home and local communities, but across the globe. But we start it with ourselves. All right, so the request is that if you're so late and are able to, turn on your camera, wave bye-bye to everyone. And let's keep each other in prayer, because everyone here does incredible work. And we have to remember that sometimes we get depleted, and sometimes we're overstressed and overstretched and overwhelmed. And so everybody who can, send a wave. This is my day, because I don't have a camera on my computer, so I rigged up something here so that I can be seen. So thank you so much, and to everyone. And hey, Juliet, I think she just her son there. Hi, and then hi. Is that your, yeah, we got a couple babies. Timothy, you want to say bye? He loves the camera. Timothy, tell him to come here really quick. He loves to be on camera. No? Okay, you missed your opportunity.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for all your, say bye real quick to everybody. There's some kids there. See, there's some kids here and here.
Bye-bye.
Those are our next generations. We're trying to take care of them. All right, blessings. Thank you, Prince Andrew. Everyone. Bye-bye. We'll
That's what it's all about.
Let's do this
It's been a
again,
pleasure today.
folks. Bye-bye.
Awesome information. Thank you.
Those that have to leave can leave. I'm going to walk through the 17 steps of the SDG number 3, but you have to go. But I'm going to share my screen to walk through that. Thank you.
And then you're going to share that, right?
Yes.
Email.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll just repeat my battery watching, because it's almost gone. Okay.
Thank you, everybody who came.
Thank you, Professor. Prophet.
You okay?
I'm
What's
okay,
happening?
baby. No, it's the candle wax.
Thank you, Prince Andrew. You can see, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yes, this is Sustainable Development Goal number 3. And just for your information, you can easily find this by just typing in Global Goals number 3, and it'll take you right here. Global Goals number 3 at globalgoals.org. Each of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals is available. Just type in Global Goals 1, etc. through 17. But SDG number 3, good health and well-being, is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. The information here provides you with a background. Over the last 15 years, the number of childhood deaths has been cut in half. This proves that it is possible to win the fight against almost every disease. Still, we are spending an astonishing amount of money and resources on treating illnesses that are surprisingly easy to prevent. The new goal for worldwide good health promotes healthy lifestyles, preventative measures, and modern, efficient healthcare for everyone. On this page, you'll find resources, ways to take action, and things to do. You can also sign up for a newsletter. Again, that's globalgoals.org/goals/3. Here are the targets. Even though there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, each of those goals has specific targets. Just again, as a backgrounder, the Sustainable Development Goals are only the second phase of a 1,000-year plan to leave no one behind that began with the Millennium Development Goals. There were 8 of those goals. Number 1 was to end poverty. Number 8 was to create global partnerships for development. As the transition happened to the Sustainable Development Goals, instead of having a handful of people in the bottom of the United Nations decides what the goals were, a worldwide survey was held with over 3 million people contributing to that. And also the continent of Africa was also devising its Agenda 2063 for a post-Millennium Development Goals common action position. That makes up the bulk of what we now know as the Sustainable Development Goals. But the idea was to have evidence-based, data-driven solutions so that major corporations and governments could track their activities and progress, but so that we as members of the world can know what they're doing and how what we're doing impacts that, so we can work together to accomplish these objectives. Target number 3.1 is to reduce maternal mortality. 3.2, end all preventable deaths under the age of 5. 3.3, fight communicable diseases. 3.4, reduce mortality from non-communicable diseases and promote mental health. 3.5, prevent and treat substance abuse. 3.6, reduce road injuries and deaths. 3.7, universal access to sexual and reproductive care, family planning and education. 3.8, achieve universal health coverage. 3.9, reduce illnesses and death from hazardous chemicals and pollutions. 3.8, implement the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. 3.B, support research, development, and universal access to affordable vaccines and medicines. 3.C, increase health financing and support health workforce in developing countries. However, there's also target 3.0, improve early warning systems for global health risks. So that is just one example of what is available online, free. You can get access to resources impacting that goal and all the other goals online at globalgoals.org. Thank you very much. I'm putting this in the chat. I'm recommending that you save the chat. If I have your information, Juliet, who is part of our Andrew Networks media team, and Joseph Akinola will try to sift through the chat to find the email addresses and send you all a link to today's event and the chat. This is being replayed on the AHIABGA Network Facebook group, AHIABGA Network on the Facebook group. You can find the replay there and also previous editions and future editions. This is Andrew Williams Jr. Thank you so very much. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prince Andrew. Have an awesome day.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.